Okay, we're going to get started. So, Brian, if you'll just take a couple minutes, introduce yourself, kind of how you got into real estate, what you did before, um, kind of, a synopsis of the last little bit of time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. So I've been in real estate since March 10th of 2014 was my first official day. Let's see, prior to I spent from 18 till about 33 in hospitality, bars, restaurants, nightclubs, that sort of thing. Prior to real estate, I was working as a manager where I'd drive up and down the East Coast and sell a service that cleared right-of-ways for utilities, municipalities, and Department of Transportation. That was cool, but it wasn't great. It wasn't my thing to drive up and down the East Coast and sit in the woods and watch people work. So I enjoyed the people aspect of it. So during that process of those 3 years, Thomas, who I've known for coming up on 26 years, actually might have just hit 26 years in just this July. Once he got into real estate in 2010, he's been trying to get me into real estate, since 2010. I was always very scared about the commission-based business, because I came from, hospitality and essentially, getting that cash and fist every single evening, and it was very difficult to get away from. So I was at a snowstorm in a military base in Alabama, and we were packing up because it was the worst snowstorm in Alabama history. So I called Thomas and I said, "So real estate, what's it really look like?" Now, during that process, I had already gotten my real estate license, and I came in the next day, and I believe I met you and saw Thomas, and I remember I was wearing like cargo pants and a holey sweater, and it was the winter, and he asked me, he said, like, "What are you wearing?" And he and I have a really good relationship outside the business, so of course I was like, "Well, I don't work for you, bud," but um, it ended up, he said, we got, hiring clients coming through here and we got to dress the part pretty much all day, every day. So it was kind of funny because when he told me what I was going to do every single day, basically sit on the phone for 12 hours a day and make phone calls, and he wasn't going to pay me. I first of all thought that was the dumbest thing that I'd ever heard because at that point in time, I was a lot better looking. I'd watched all the reality shows. I had my real estate license, so I thought I knew everything about everything, and clearly I did not. So I asked him one question. I said, "So where do I really need to start?" And he said, "Okay, so if you do what's hard, life will be easy, but if you do what's easy, life's going to be hard." So I didn't really understand what that meant at that point in time. But I knew at that point in time, like the worst thing that could happen to me was to fail. Now, I did still bartend on Friday and Saturday nights to supplement my income. But I remember March 10th through December 31st, I made $47,000, and it was just setting appointments. So I was just in inside sales, setting appointments for other agents to go on. I did that for 2.5 years. But I was spoon fed. I would set an appointment. I was able to go out on a sit, is what we called it, and watch the other agent and how they, talked to the client and saw what they did, which gave me a lot of opportunities to utilize everything that I had learned to, come up with my own style. And then 2017, I started selling real estate, like helping buyers and sellers. And I worked with 58 families my first year. In 18, it was 104. In 19, it was 106. In 2020, and it was close to 115, 123 at that point when, we all got together, you, Thomas, myself, Lars, and we all just said, "Hey, what does this look like to step out of production and to, start managing, team members and help them create a successful business?" The numbers made sense. It's all math. And, I started doing that, helping the agents, create a lifestyle, by selling real estate. The challenging part about that was a lot of my income was based solely on what everybody else did. And it was very difficult for me because I'm a doer. And I was still using the same schedule that I was using. I was still coming in early on the weekend, staying late during the week, and it was very difficult because some of the other agents on the team at that point in time weren't really putting in the effort, which essentially had their income suffer, which also made my income suffer, which is difficult. And I came from a background to where money was sacred. You always had to work hard for it, and you didn't spend it frivolously, and it just worked out. So. Um, well, we did that for 2 years, 2.5 years, and then back in 2023, I stepped back into production full time. I've been working with buyers and sellers ever since.
Yeah, so really, if you're thinking about, we always talk that you've been on the team for 13 years. You've been doing real estate about almost a little over 13, is that
Mhm.
some of those years we don't even count houses, right? So in inside sales, we don't count those in the 700. When you were in sales management or sales coaching role, you did less units and
Mhm.
still to this day have close to 700. which is crazy to think about. That again, first few years you had foundational pieces of what it takes to be in real estate, which is not what they teach in school, right? It's not what they teach you.
Right.
It's about the all the connections that you made, all the phone calls you had to do, all the phone calls that you got hung up on. So thank you for sharing your kind of your story and about how you got here. Okay, so first question, I'm going to go through my list. When you look back at 700 homes sold, what do newer agents misunderstand most about success in real estate?
Hmm. That's a good question. So when you look back at 700 homes, you said, I think most agents where they struggle, and please excuse the noise, at the beach, the kids are about to go to the pool. So as you can see, they're going to start running around in the background and everything as well. So
It's all
oh,
good.
the life of a realtor, you adapt and overcome and do it that way. So I think that the most challenging thing that newer agents don't understand or misunderstand in the business is what it actually takes to really start off about being an agent. Because most people, they watch the reality shows and they think that it's easy, you're going to make a lot of money, you don't have to work real hard. Oh, hang on 1 second.
And
Yeah.
since Boker joined the team, he actually had kids after joining. And now has three awesome ones.
Yeah, three kids, 10, 8, and 2 since 2016.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So getting back to the question, I think what agents misunderstand about getting into the business is what it actually takes to start. And it's a lot of long hours. I mean, I was literally 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for probably 2.5 years, like constantly. Like, when I was, still coming in, I remember when my son in 2016, when he was born, I would still wear him in a little ergo carrier on the phone on Saturday mornings while, my wife Megan went to the gym to exercise because that's just something that she wanted to do. So I would wear him for an hour, 2 hours, like making phone calls and bouncing him around that little office that we had down on the first floor over there off Torrington too. So um, I think the biggest piece of what agents misunderstand is the actual effort and the time that it takes to actually come in here and start a successful business. It's early mornings, it's late evenings, it's weekends, especially when you're getting started, and it's a lot of rejection. A lot of rejection, which is very difficult to maintain and to understand. It's always good to have a support system somehow, some way. It's nice to have a couple of bucks saved for a rainy day so that if you're not making a sale in the first, 3, 6, 9 months, you've got something to fall back on, and you just have to plan accordingly. Even if it takes supplementing your income, which I don't really recommend, even though I did it. And then when Thomas, at that first 9 months, he gave me an ultimatum. He said, "Bud, you could either, go bartend, or you can start, you can be a professional, like helping people buy and sell homes." And it was very uncomfortable for me to do that. But it really, I think, again, the thing that most agents misunderstand is what it actually takes and the commitment to come into this business and put the effort in up front so that you would, like days like this where you can sit back and live a life and, count passive income, which is good.
Yeah, which we'll talk about as well. So you're saying that supplementing, you did it, right? I saw you do it, and yet you would not recommend it to anybody
No,
who's okay.
because I mean, there's just a lot of where it was funny when Thomas told me, he said, hey, you could either go bartend, or he asked me a question. He said, hey, how many sales have you done from behind the bar? And of course, I had to think about it. And, he knew the number and it was zero, he asked me, why do I think that is? And I thought, and he basically said, it's because nobody can really take me seriously. Here I was, cleaning up people's trash and serving them drinks and serving them food when, I'm talking about selling 4 or 5, $100,000 homes. But people are like, well, this guy's, not treating that as his main career. He's over here doing this as well. So, you got to pick and choose. You got to do what you got to do to get by, but you also have to put the effort in
Yeah,
up front.
I agree. Okay, so you talked about rejection and that it takes facing a lot of it. When you first started, spent 2.5 years on the phone, which when we have people join our team, they're spending a lot of time on their phone, building their habits, book of business, their scripts. How did you handle rejection early on?
Honestly,
Drinking?
oh my God, it was
That's
difficult for me.
I think
Like I'll be honest, I was probably drinking every single night.
Okay.
because it was just such a rough thing for me coming from my background to where everybody came to me and I had what they wanted. And it was a very easy sale, when somebody would come and they would order something and I had what they wanted because they needed me.
Yeah.
Um, when I started getting on the phone, like I knew absolutely nothing. I owned a home, which is good. I bought my first house in 2008, but I knew nothing about real estate. I knew nothing about talking to people. I knew nothing about caring about people. I knew nothing about figuring out their problems, and I sounded terrible because we still have a lot of my first phone calls recorded, and it's awful listening to myself then and the timid, scared, individual or middle-aged person that I was to, the very confident, very distinguished person that I've developed into today. And it took a lot of practice.
We
So
should send
the
Katie
rejection-
those and put them online. They would be so funny.
yeah, yeah, don't
Yeah.
please don't do that. The rejection was very difficult for me. There was plenty of times that I thought I was going to quit. Honestly, plenty of times where I just didn't feel it was the right move for me. But then again, I just thought about it and I said, hey, let's just keep putting in the effort. Let's go back again. Let's keep doing it because I'm not a quitter. Very, very competitive. I like to, I like to compete. But man, was it difficult.
So do
Very
you,
difficult.
so that is not the right way. I would say that people should not go to drinking.
No.
Not very healthy. So if you could go back and tell people now the best way that you figured out how to handle rejection, right? Because you get it, it hurts more at the beginning, right? You
Mhm.
get kind of anesthetized to it at some point. And what would you tell them?
Honestly, I would just say just do another phone call. Just get back into it. Like, you're not going to have success every day in this business, but by doing this business every single day, you'll have a lot of success. What we've developed into currently is, I'm not attached to it. If somebody doesn't want to work with me, I don't like to hear that. But at the end of the day, that's okay because, our my particular manner, my little bit of jocularity is not for everybody in this business, and I'm okay with it. Because ultimately, what I've learned now is people need to do what's best for them. And if it's working with us, great. If it's not working with us, it's okay. There's plenty of people out there in the world that need some help with real estate. And, we want, a couple of hundred a year. So there's lots of opportunities for people. So, what I'd recommend is, definitely don't go down that rabbit hole of drinking because it is unhealthy and it just not the best option is just get right back on the phone and continue it. Just get right back on the phone, continue it, wake up, thank God every single day that you've got another opportunity to help
Yeah.
change somebody's life. I look at my family nowadays and I'm just like, I have a reason. Well, I have a lot of reasons that I need to get up and I have to continue, or I get to continue to do what I love to do. And
Yeah.
it's, help people buy and sell homes, invest, do some hard money loans. I mean, it's a good business and a great industry to be in. It does provide you a lot of flexibility, yet you got to work for it.
You have to work for it. Okay, so next question. What lead generation activity has stayed valuable no matter what the market is doing?
Well, that's a great question because we do so many different lead generation tools.
Yet for you, you've seen 13 years worth
Yeah.
of market, right? And we're in a market that is a little challenging for people who have either seen the good stuff and now are like, what the F? Like, what am I doing? Or people
Right.
getting it to now, hearing all these things and being really scared about what this industry means. So for you and your business,
I think it's
what'd you say?
the one thing that people need to rely on is their sphere of influence, their friends and
Oh,
their family. And the one recommendation that I make to any new team member coming in is to, pick up their cell phone, look at exactly how many contacts are in their telephone. Could be one, could be, a couple of hundred, could be 1,000. And I say start at the top or start at the bottom and call every single person in your phone and let them know that you are in real estate and that you need their help. And then essentially make that a quarterly activity to call your friends and your family. And, don't be a secret agent. Every time that you're out with them, ask them for business or, ask them. It's now to the point where people, if I talk to them, even past clients are like, no, we don't need to buy or sell something. And I'm like, well, if you brought it up, we may as well at least have a conversation, about real estate. But now people know that I'm in real estate because I've
yeah.
just talked about it constantly. But so I would recommend continuing to lean on your friends and your family because you got to start somewhere. And if you can't make money on your friends and your family, who can you make money off of, right?
Were they someone when you first started the business that you worked with them or nurtured them as well as you could have?
I've failed a lot in this business. And, I could have done that task a whole heck of a lot better than what I did. Because I started off calling circle prospecting, calling expireds, withdrawals for sell by owners. And we didn't really have all the tools and technology then that we do now. I remember the first script Thomas gave me, and it was awful. I mean, it was awful. It was probably like 4 or 5 sentences. It was all run on. And I intended to get through the script before they could, hang up on me or say no. Um, so it was very interesting. If I would have had a chance to go back and do it again, I would take my own advice and I'd go back through my phone, and I would call every single one of those people, and let them know that I'm real estate. Because I remember I started it, but what I did is I also picked and chose. I was like, okay, I'm not going to call this person. It was an old girlfriend, or I'm not going to call this person. It was an old boss, or I'm not going to call this person because I know they live in Sheboygan or something to that case. So I had a hard time with it, because again, it was the rejection. But then again, people that know you, like you, and trust you are more opportunity to do business with you and want to help you at first, which gives you a leg up in the business for sure.
I agree. So is there any, and I would agree with you on sphere, because everybody has them. Whether it's a few, they know a few more people, like it's actually larger than you think, or you have a really big base. And yet, was there any other lead generation activity that potentially was like team provided, or you've just seen in your years that has stayed no matter what the market is?
Oh yeah, we did it 13 years ago and we still do it today. It's calling, expired listings, withdrawn
Okay.
listings for sale by owners. And graciously enough, the team does provide the tools, the technology, the resources to be able to go out and to do that on a daily basis, to where, I basically just need to come in and set it and forget it, and start having conversations with people about real estate.
Yeah. And firms sometimes do. You just have to ask your firm or your team or brokerage if they offer it, because sometimes they do, or it can be purchased, right? That agents here getting into it, doing it on their own, could still have the same numbers we have, right? We don't have any magic numbers, magic list that no
Well,
one
the
else does.
technology is out there for everybody,
Yeah.
somehow, some way.
Yeah. Except our sphere, right? That's the only, no one else in real estate really, well, majority of them aren't working, the people that you know.
Yeah.
Same way. Okay. Next question. What 1 to 2 habits have helped you stay productive over the 13 years?
Honestly, for me, it's the consistency. It's waking up every single day, and keeping a very routine schedule. So the consistency of coming in and doing it every single day, knowing that some days I'm not going to have success, but again, by doing it a lot, I can have a lot of success in this business. Um, so yeah, definitely the consistency. And then what did I say the
Yeah.
other one just a moment ago?
You said calendar or schedule?
Oh yeah, the schedule. So it's again running the exact same schedule then that I do now. Now, granted, I've changed some things a little bit, with the 3 kids, where when I first started, it was, 12 hours a day, nonstop, every single day. Nowadays, it's, I don't have to, well, I choose not to work as late because with my children, 10, 8, and 2, they have a lot of events and things that I like to be part of, which is why I worked so hard in the very beginning to be able to do things nowadays that it's like, hey, I can go spend time, a couple of days at the beach right before school starts back, or, coach my son's baseball team, go to my daughter's soccer game. My 2-year-old Riley, she'll start to do some things here at some point in time. So, yeah, the consistency of doing it every single day and just running a very unique schedule is the thing to do.
Got it. Okay. Next question. What numbers or activities should a newer agent track every week?
Honestly, it's contacts. It's two-way conversations with a decision-making adult about real estate, because, every single no brings you to another yes. And that person who has the most yet knows is probably going to be the one that's having the most success in real estate because they're putting in more effort. So contacts, set appointments, met appointments, sign contracts, under contracts, and closings. You got to have a pipeline. You got to know what's coming up in addition to what's working. Because, in this business, you can ride a roller coaster. You have a couple of good months, you have a couple of bad months because you're just not putting as much effort in. But as long as you're keeping track of your numbers, your contacts, your sets, your mets, your under contracts, your closings, those are the numbers that you really need. And then honestly, one more thing is the hours a day that you're working. Now, granted, we all need time off. and the good Lord above said, if you can't do it in 6 days, you sure as heck can't do it in seven, but you need to take some time and unwind because if you do it nonstop, you will burn yourself out in this business, which happens to a lot of people, which is probably why there's a lot of turnover as
Yeah,
well. So work
I
hard, but
agree.
yet take time for yourself.
I agree. So let's say they start tracking these activities, right? And now what do they do with them? So if you're tracking your sets and you're not setting, what would you say?
Well, what am I? I guess the question would be, what kind of am I getting happy years? Am I just setting it to set it and make myself feel better that I have a set appointment? Or am I really having an in-depth conversation with that person, the person on the telephone or in person to really figure out the why behind the why? Like what's the problem that we're really trying to solve? And that's where, when you're new in this business, you're setting everything. Anything
Mhm.
that, has a pulse, sounds like a consultation, you're setting every single thing that you could set until you can start to figure it out on the telephone if this person's serious or not. And honestly, at some point in time, you just got to call it out and you just got to ask them like, is this something you're really trying to do or is it not? Because you want to work with the most motivated people. Not letting the bad leads get buried under the good leads. And we're all guilty of chasing a lot of bad leads. So um, yeah, if you're not setting it or if you're not meeting it, then you got to figure out, what questions could you have asked to figure out that the motivation level is where it needs to be.
Okay. And for anybody who's, again, doing this, how do they do that? How
How
do
do they
they
do
figure
what?
out like kind of what's going on with all the stages, right? And like the conversations that, they don't know what's working or what's not working. Well, they know what's not working.
Yeah, I think the challenging part is depending on if you're an individual coming into this business and you're doing it all on your own and you don't have the people to rely on around you to listen to phone calls, to script, to role play. Where I've been, spoiled in this business, I only know of real estate from being on this team. I started on this team, I'm still on this team, and I'm proving that you can make a lot of money, in a team environment. And I have resources. Like if I need to call you or call Thomas or call our broker in charge and have a conversation and ask them a question, I'll do it. The relationships that I've built over the years, just from being in the organization and some of the rooms that I've been in because of being on the team or because of being on the team, and I have those resources of people to reach out to, because of the team environment and the team aspect. So you definitely need to align yourself with people. I've seen all the firms, are notorious for being a body shop and bringing in any fresh face off the street with a real estate license and collecting desk fees and monthly fees and taking caps and this, that, and the other. And they don't really pour into the agents like what they should, like a team environment does. And I mean, Thomas to this day is still very involved in making sure that we're, sharp and doing what we need to do to be successful in this business.
Yeah. And yet even not being on a team, you said it, you have a firm that you
Mhm.
should be able to go to. They provide a lot of value, support to help you figure out, part of tracking numbers and activities is then to figure out, am I getting the results I want? It's like you said, if I'm getting the results, then the activities and the consistency, you just keep doing it, just keep going. If you're not, something has to change. And there's partners you can find, in the realtor groups. There's people you sit in school with who are doing real estate. There's teams or people like Brian and myself who, of course, are willing to help others succeed, who want to succeed. Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. So you've seen good seasons, good years, aka 2021, great year, right?
Yep.
2022, pretty good year. You've also seen when you first started in this business, things were still kind of weird, like they were just kind of like mid. And then now you have a market where it's somewhat switching over to buyers, kind of stabilized. So how do you handle like all of these changes without losing the momentum in your business?
Oh, it's just every day is a new season. It's a new chapter. Like I wake up every single day and I'm broke. I have to figure out, who can I help today? This is gonna sound terrible, but who's got my money today? I have three children, I have a wife, I have a dog, I own seven homes. I have to figure out, hey, how can I continue to feed my children and their activities? How can I continue to provide for, my wife and my family? I have people that count on me. So, I have no, well, I don't have any, I don't say I don't have any choice. I have a choice. But I choose to get up every single day and continue to do it. I mean, that's what you have to do in this business. You have to wake up, and Les Brown said it. Like he said, you have to wake up hungry, like every single day. It doesn't no matter
That's not
what.
how he says it though.
Yeah, he said hungry, and it's really definitely worth the watch for sure. But it's just something that you have to wake up every single day and you have to do it, whether the market's good or the market's bad, or whatever you perceive the market is at that point. Like you have to continue to get up every single day and choose to want to come in and help people do what they need to do every single day. I mean, it is a choice,
It's a choice.
and
Yeah.
some people choose not to.
Yeah. So I think it's a mindset because right now you hear a lot. I've heard it. I don't know if you've heard it, where people are the market's frustrating, the market's scary to them, and they have all these thoughts of that it's terrible, right? Or it's getting worse, or there's all this hesitancy. And when we carry that, it translates to the people we want to work with, who then, choose to work with someone else who make different choices. So I love it. That is about
Which I'll
choice and
say that
mindset.
a lot of it's like where are you getting the information from? And can I mean Thomas's dad always said it, say consider the source. Like where are they getting the information from? And another one of Thomas's coaches that worked with the team for quite a while, Brett Tanner, he always said, like, is that your truth or is it the truth? So you just have to dig down deep and kind of figure out, your why. Like, why do you want to do it every day? Why do you get a chance to do it? And if you can make excuses for just about anything and talk yourself out of anything. But if you choose to just be positive about it and say, okay, we can go get some, then it's out there for everybody because people are still buying and selling homes, like still doing it to this
Yeah.
day, you
I
know?
agree. And your best year in real estate, which I think was 123, at least that's what I
Mhm.
say. What year was that?
That was
2019?
2020 was my
So
best
it
year.
was, okay, so it was that year. And you did 106 the year before. So even prior to the market kind of shifting and interest rate like going down, what do you feel like can attribute your success those years, right? Because I think there are people on this call who even getting to 20 or 30 in one year is like pinnacle, right?
Mhm.
Now you get to quadruple that. You did that. What would you say got you to the triple digits in a year?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, a lot of it, I'll give all the credit to the team and the inside sales associates that we had on the team at that point in time.
So most
Because
things were set for you. Like what do you think your ratio was?
I should know that number. But I don't. But yeah, there was a lot of set appointments for me from inside sales associates on the team. And selling 100 homes in a year is busy. Like that's a
Yeah,
busy year to do it. And you have to find time to, set appointments, go on all these appointments, meet all these people, do everything, negotiate these deals. So, it's a lot of it was the team and the people that I had around me, to be able to
okay.
talk to somebody like you and Megan that would handle the listings and Dominique was with us and you girls doing the transaction coordinating and handling a lot of the smaller tasks for me. I'll say smaller, but
Yeah,
important tasks to get us to the closing table, but not as important for me to go out and get new business
yeah,
and continue that. So
got it.
you got
Yeah,
to be getting more.
I would still think you had it was definitely over 50% that you set for yourself. So like you still made calls and you still worked with them. Yet to get to six figures, that too, six digits, you went on all the consults, you signed all of them, you negotiated the offer, and you did the thing that a realtor's supposed to do, right? The highest dollar producing activity for your skill. And everything else was leveraged off. That's how you do all of those on your own. And you still went and they built that relationship with you, right? And chose to work with with who you are. Okay, awesome. What are, let's say, a couple of the biggest mistakes the newer agents make? The ones you've seen who just like get into real estate, get licensed, you see them online, maybe on the team, but like you just see them. Like, what are the biggest mistakes they make?
I'll take it back to when I first started because when I first started, I went to Thomas and you and I was like, oh my God, well I need to go learn this and I need to go learn contracts and I need to go learn how to negotiate and I need to go sit through this class and I need to be certified in this. But the challenging thing is I could not create a lead, I couldn't convert a lead, and I couldn't close a lead. The three C's. So I think that the challenge is newer agents get into this business and they're looking at the next best thing and all these shiny objects and social media and things that just aren't as productive as learning the business and having conversations learning the rejection, learning how to be told no, failing, setting appointments and not meeting. Like that's what agents need to do. Is like you got to start just having conversations with people, either in person, online, on the phone, in videos. You just need to start figuring it out somehow, some way, and failing. Because that's the only way that you're going to learn is to fail in this business.
Got it. Any other mistakes you see other than that? I mean, that's a big one, and I would agree that they're chasing all these things, and you can only chase so many, and they're running away from what you're saying helped you succeed in closing 700 homes. So if someone can do it and has already done it, then it makes sense to say, well, I'm going to do what he said, even though people sometimes don't, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Any other ones?
I think that the biggest one is just, just learn the business, learn how to have conversations. All the other stuff comes with time, like the contracts, the negotiations, everything up. Like, I mean, there's always going to be another class to take. There's always going to be something else that you can do, and there's always going to be something new that comes out. But again, unless you can have conversations with people and learn how to understand and guide them through the process up front, you'll never even get to the contract part if you can't have a conversation and create a lead and close. Like
Sure.
it's all Simonus that has to do that at some point in time.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. What, and this could, you could have said this already, yet I like to ask it. So, what do agents overcomplicate? We complicate a lot, at least the years I've seen agents. So, what specifically do you feel like agents overcomplicate?
I mean, it's the whole conversation. It's the whole process. It's, talking yourself out of a deal. This business, less is more. Like just ask a question and be quiet. Help somebody by asking them a question and listening to what they're saying. We could what if it to death. And, I think another challenge is agents get very possessive. And they don't understand that we're working together. Listing agents, buyer agents are working together to help solve a problem, a buyer to seller. And when they take it personal and it's my seller and my buyer and they start making it very personal, that's where it gets very difficult for us agents to work together. And we need each other. Agents need each other in this business. They have to show some ethics. They have to, be positive when it comes to it. We're salespeople. Um, just, stop talking yourself out of it and ask and find out what's important. Give guidance because that's what we're being hired to do. But yet at the end of the day, I'm not the one buying the house. I'm not the one selling the house. And I tell buyers and sellers if the numbers don't make sense, then don't buy it. Like, don't sell the house if the numbers don't make sense. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. And just overcomplicating this business is terrible. Just
Agreed.
stop overcomplicating. It's easy.
Yeah. And part of that comes, I think they coincide where you talk about possessiveness and overcomplicating, right? And talking, them making choices. Where do you feel like you learned or failed in understanding like possession and wanting to make it about like you in the conversation or in the transaction?
Well, I'll tell you, early on in this business, it was how many people, how many homes could I sell and how much money could I make? And I didn't really understand what caring about people, what it really looked like in this business. Because I could probably be over 1,000 if I would actually, this is going to sound terrible, if I would have put more time and effort into learning and caring about everybody that we worked
Okay.
with versus just transactional. Um, and I think you have to cultivate those relationships. You have to care about people because it will take you a lot further in this business than just coming in and just saying, "Hey, how much money can I make?" Now, obviously, you got to make some money, but you also have to show that you care about people. And I remember I was coaching with Jeremy Herman, and he told me, he said, "Hey, let's go through your spiel. Let's start doing what you did." And I started doing it. He stopped me after a minute, and he said, just like he said, "Dude, you're not a robot." Like he said, you need to go in. He said, you need to be yourself. You need to show people that you care about them, that they can trust you. Then you'll actually have an opportunity to work with people. But if you can't get through those first two things, the care and the trust, you'll never have the opportunity to earn their business.
So do you think there's a direct correlation between the level of care and the level of possessiveness? So can you care a bunch and still be possessive of like it's my client, my seller, my buyer, and agents are against each other? Or do you feel like if you are one, you can't be the other?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think you can be a chameleon in this business and you can still show professionalism to agents and you can still care. about your client and give them good advice and then ultimately let them make a decision,
Okay.
what they want to do. And I'll just give an example. We had a client that we actually helped these folks. We worked with their son. We helped them buy and sell a home. And then just recently they hired us to help them sell a house. We were under contract. The deal didn't make sense, so it fell apart. And then they said, hey, this is not something that we think we should be doing. And I told them, I said, girls, I don't know if you remember when we first met, I told you I thought you were crazy to want to even sell this house, with the current interest rate and what they were paying and what they were looking to do. But then again, it was not my decision at
Yeah.
that point in time. And they ultimately decided not to sell the house, which is fine because that was what was best for them at
Yeah.
that point in time.
Yeah. I love that. And that's tough to say when you're a newer
Mhm.
agent and you don't have a lot of business. You don't have the pipeline, you don't have the nurtures, and it matters for you to get up and rolling, which goes back to what you said earlier about having some income set aside,
Mhm.
right? Some supplemental stuff, some support. So you don't have to treat a client that way because I think they can feel it. Like I think they can feel when you're a little desperate, which we don't want you to be. Um, and you have to start somewhere. Okay. What is one uncomfortable truth agents need to hear?
What's one uncomfortable truth? I mean, we've said it, you're going to fail.
Okay,
It's
good.
gonna happen. That person's not gonna meet with you. You're not gonna sign the contract. The house will not close, either buyer or seller, and it's inevitable. So it's going to happen. You just have to take that hit on the chin and you have to understand what you could do to improve, and maybe what you could learn from that, and then jump back up and do it again and
Yeah,
do it again and do it again. Because failing is inevitable in this business. It's going to happen. It happens every single day. And you just have to learn how to, guide yourself through the failures to have some success.
got it. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I wrote down if you pretty much, it's uncomfortable saying if you aren't willing to fail, you shouldn't even get into real estate. Like this is
Correct.
just not the field for you. Like it's not going to work. Go find something else. Right?
And it's difficult to say, hey,
Yeah.
you're going to fail and understand that you failed. But again, you just have to dig deep and kind of find out what your own motivation is and say, hey, how can I continue to dig and dig and dig? And, why am I doing this every single day? The good news for me, it's my family. I mean, I get an opportunity to provide for them and create, lifestyle for them that they could not even imagine. And at first, I remember Megan, she did not like what I did because I was gone so much in the first few years of always out on appointments. And then, one day she looks at me and she thanks me for, the effort that I put in. And like, that's powerful, very powerful.
So if there are people here, you know, there's like 15 people, which is awesome, and they don't have their why. Like they don't know why they're doing it. And eventually, I mean, I don't know if you agree with me, if you don't have a good reason to do it, eventually you'll stop, right? Like you're just not gonna, there's no reason for you to get up and do this, whether you're making money or not making money. So how did you find your why? Or how would you tell them how to find it?
Well, that's a good question. I was sitting there thinking about it, and at first my why was, money. It was how much money can I make in this business? And I wasn't like super successful right away, but $47,000. I mean, in a whole year, I mean, or 9 months, like that's crazy to think. I mean, now you do that in a month and you're like, oh, that's a bad month. So, um, it took me until having my son in 2016 to really understand what my why was. And even then, you know, chasing the almighty dollar for those 2 years until I had my middle daughter Reagan, in 2018. And then it was like really understanding like what does this look like? And I started looking back on my childhood and saying, okay, how can I, improve their lives? And I just, so I wake up and I want them to be, I want my children's lives to be better than my life. I want them to outperform me. I want them to outdo me. I want them to be more successful than me. I want to put them in such a good position, spiritually, financially, physically, that they're just good people. And I mean, that's my why. I want to make sure that, my family is set up so that God forbid, on down generation after generation, they look back and they say, okay, I can see, why, Brian worked as hard as he did.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is super powerful. And
Yeah.
it took you a little while to get, so your why can change. It sounds like
Hmm.
your why can
Yeah.
evolve and grow, and you just need to figure out what it is at the moment to get you through rejection, the slow market, the failure, right? To get you through the learning, and potentially lack of income. So thank you for sharing. Okay, where does having a team or support system, right? So I'm an advocate for a team. I know you are as well. Yet I highly believe that motivated people can succeed without one. Like
Hmm.
there are people who, gosh, they are awesome as individual agents or running. Like it's just so powerful to see. And they have a support system. I agree that they do. So, what do you feel like having a team or support system can make the biggest difference for people who may not have either one?
I think it's just the opportunity to rely on somebody to help you. I mean, I just had one of our newer agents reach out to me and just say, "Hey, can we sit down and do some paperwork and walk me through it?" And I said, "Yeah, just when I get back, I'll be in the office back on Friday, so we'll just we'll sit down and do it." So it's having somebody to rely on and go to with questions. Yet I tell you, the one powerful thing before you go try to figure out the answer from somebody, you should probably go try to figure it out on your own because you may not always have somebody there to get
True.
the answer from. But the beauty about, being on a team or having a good support system is just having somebody to rely on if you can't figure it out. Having somebody to go with you on an appointment and, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Hearing it from people is probably the most powerful part of it. Having, somebody or a support system or a team that's got a process of, doing it over and over again is also very important. Something that's somebody's people that aren't going to overcomplicate it and just realize that it's not brain surgery yet. It is financial surgery. So we just got to be able to, go in and figure that piece out. And having a good platform to learn and train is also very important as well.
Agreed. Agreed. We never got into, so we got into the fact that you sold a bunch of houses, you know, 700 to be exact. And in that time, you not only sold and bought, you leveraged the income you made from selling to do other stuff with that. So what have you done? Because part of it too is real estate allows you to make good money. Yet if you don't do something with it, when you stop selling, it's all gone, right? Income just stops. So you have to keep going, right? There's no retirement plan. There's no pension benefits. So what have you done with income from real estate that is more leveraged?
I bought rental homes. So I bought my first house in 2008, bought my second house in 2015, and then rented that house, the first house I bought in 2008. It's been the exact same tenant since 2015. So she's coming up on 11 years in that home. So passive income from rental properties, bought my second home 15, third home in 19. So I've lived in the first three and little to no money down, and then obviously bought something else when letting somebody come in and rent that property from you.
That was your
uh,
fourth one.
the fourth one I bought as an investment
Okay.
property. It was right on that COVID time frame, and just she didn't want to hire somebody, and she didn't want to do it. So we made a deal, and it was either terms and conditions. So bought that from her. She lived in it. She moved out. That's been a great rental. So a lot of it has been passive incomes. I also invest into whole life insurance policies to where I can go, use my own money to I can essentially be my own bank, which is good. I've created a self-directed IRA, which allows me to buy real estate, flip real estate from that, and also do hard money loans to other real estate investors at really good interest rates, which is good. So I just, as the years have progressed, it's been if I want an asset, I have to figure out how do I have another asset that pays for that asset.
Yeah.
So, I bought a house in the mountains and, with the income that I generate from just, shared trade certificates, CDs and other investments, just, that money essentially pays for, my house in the mountains,
Yeah.
which is good. Um, let's see, just had to buy my wife a new car. So the good news is I have passive income coming in from these
Yeah.
rental properties to where it's like, okay, how can I go out and pay for this car? So it's just having passive income from rental properties, other investments, which has been my avenue,
Yeah.
to build wealth and create.
Yeah. And that was all learned as you made income selling houses, right? And so it's using that, it's leveraging that. And now whenever, you decide to retire in 25 years,
Hmm.
I don't know,
Who knows?
25 years. You have money working and you'll have more money working by then. Okay, I want to open, if anyone has questions, Brian and I can see them, or I'll read it. Please put it in the chat. Otherwise, I will ask another question while y'all are like typing. So if someone listening today was to take like three takeaways, like to implement, and you would say, do these three things, read, whatever it is, and do them in the next week, and it will begin a step to change your business. What would you say those three things are?
Reevaluate your why. Like, why are you doing this every
Mhm.
single day? Go through your telephone and call all of your sphere of influence, and then find either a coach, partner, team member that can help you uh, guide you through this process and essentially I mean, literally tell you where you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. I think
Awesome.
that's the biggie.
Okay. Yeah. So anyone listening, do those three. Okay. What are your daily non-negotiables, right? Your business, like no matter sky's falling, something's on fire, you're getting this done that day.
Well, so I organized Tomorrow Today. It's a good book if you haven't read it. So each
Mhm.
evening at 9:30, before I go to bed, after I put the kids to bed, I look at my schedule the next day and I figure out what do I have to do. So, a big part of it would be organizing your tomorrow, the day before, is a biggie. So non-negotiables would be, uh, man, it's kind of hard. It's difficult. All right, so I mean, really, you need to spend, depending on where you are in your business. Obviously, you have to plan. You got to prospect every single day. You've got to lead follow up every single day. You've got to go on appointments. You've got to negotiate offers. Now, if you don't have appointments to negotiate or appointments to go on, you have to figure it out somehow, some way. So if you look at your calendar, you say, I've got nothing but white space on it, like that time is spent for prospecting, generating business somehow, some way, somehow.
Yeah.
So if you don't have an appointment to go on or something to negotiate, guess what? You're going to be spending either all day on the phone or around people, you know, having contacts about real estate. So that's really the biggie for me is, I mean, you have to prospect and you have to lead follow up every single day.
Got it. Okay. When you started as an inside sales agent, what would you recommend a newer person, so going back, someone's getting into that field, right? They're in inside sales. What would you recommend that they focus on the most, like top priority?
Getting 50 contacts a day, 50.
Why 50?
Well, because I mean, you got to start by having a lot of conversations in this business, and by having 50 conversations, two-way conversations about real estate with a decision-making adult, that's going to uncover a lot of opportunities somehow, some way. It may be good opportunities, it may be not so good opportunities, but by just having 50 conversations with people every single day, I mean, you start doing the math on that. If you're working 5, 6 days a week, that's 300, 250 to 300 conversations a week, 1,200 a month. I mean, that's a lot of conversations about real estate. And that's going to turn into a lot of no's, but it's also going to turn into a few yeses.
Yeah,
And that will blow the doors off of it because most agents are making what 15, 20, a day.
yeah,
Sometimes less,
yeah.
than that. So
When you started, can you remember? I can't remember.
I have
How
no
many
idea.
contacts you made a day?
I don't know. Honestly, I was there so much every single day, hours upon hours
You think
on
it was
end.
50?
I don't know. Some days were less, some days were more,
Yeah,
just based on just putting in the effort, doing that and be a sponge. Be a sponge, get into the right rooms, listen to what people are saying on the phone with other people. Just put yourself out there, to do it.
I like it. Okay, awesome. Okay. I think we will end here a couple minutes early. Brian and I are available. You can find us on social media. Brian is pretty good on his social media, if I have to say so myself. And find him, message me. We are open, and this is being recorded, and we are open to talking about this more. Like he is a wealth of knowledge for all the things. So he's had 700 transactions that were all different, which means he has learned 700 ways to sell or buy a house. and they're all unique, and it gives him a unique ability to speak on a lot of circumstances. So that's really awesome. We also are doing more of a webinar series because we want to keep this going. And our next one is on August 12th. Thomas is actually going to be hosting that one. And for anyone who wants to join, we'll be sending it out in the later this week. So you can register, it's free. And it's about what you can do to make six figures in a year and every year. So by doing these 10 steps, I think it's 10, um, you'll make six figures. And Brian has made six figures every year since the first one, I think. Um,
Since actually so it was 2014, 15, no, but 2016 on, it's been a good
like,
ride
yeah.
for sure.
So, and we're just breaking it down into like 10 steps. So please feel free to join those and share with any other realtors. And this was awesome. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you all. See you in a couple days.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.